Welcome back to MVM. Today we have a Kickstarter preview with our friend Nick Little from Indie Boards and Cards. He's got Kodama 3D. This is the fourth Kodama in the series-ish.
It's the third Kodama in the series.
That's true.
It's the fourth game in the Kodama universe.
But the 3D makes a difference here because you are literally building three-dimensional trees, right?
This is really cool. I mean, you start off with this little 3-branch tree, and you build it out by using these branches. And it's not about height or dimensions. It's about linking different things and getting gold cards.
Yeah, kind of similar to how Kodama was. You'll be drafting branches. The draft mechanic is very different from Kodama, because in Kodama you just had a row, almost like these gold cards are set up now, and you just take one and you add it to your tree. And this, we've kind of created this forest, as I call it in the rule book, that are these piles of branch tiles, and then you'll place 2 little Kodama meeples. Initially at launch they'll be tokens, and we'll hit the stretch goals to make them meeples, I think.
I hope so. These meeples are awesome.
Yeah, and they're different shapes based on which color you are. So you'll pick one of your meeples and you will move it in a straight line, either diagonal or left or right, and then you'll pick up the branch that you left, and then you will add it to your tree. Go ahead.
This is a bit of a puzzle then, because you're not only just focused on the branch that you're taking, but you want to plan out your next turn, part of the draft, which didn't exist in the earlier ones, really.
Correct, yeah. There was planning towards the goal cards that you had, but you didn't really have any control over what was going to be available to you, because by the time everybody else drafted from the row, it would be different usually.
And it should be mentioned also that each of these trees has their own starting colored Kodama with an icon on it for those people that are colorblind. And then all of these have a colored Kodama, as well as some kind of like a caterpillar or a flower or a mushroom.
Correct.
And all those things are important because of the gold cards, which you're trying to link together and gather through the game.
Yeah, each branch has one of the 4 Kodamas and one of the 4 icons. And all the gold cards care about what Kodamas you have and what icons you have and where they are on your tree. And in Kodama, you would score when you placed a branch based on your icons, and then you'd also score after every 4 rounds when you play a Kodama card from your tree. In Kodama 3D, you just score at the end of the game based on what gold cards you have. You start the game by drawing 3 gold cards and keeping 2 of them, and then throughout the game, whenever you add a branch and you place it onto a branch or your trunk, if they doesn't match any of the icons, you're going to get to add another gold card.
Yeah, the gold cards seem to come fast and furious depending on how you play.
Yeah.
So you can try to accomplish one of the goals in your hand, but then if you want to go after something else, you could take something completely different. And that also kind of adds more layers to the puzzle of how you're planning out your spaces, because you can kind of claim a spot and then do some other things, get a few more gold cards, and then continue on that goal. Also, because you have to balance this tree, right?
That's true. If you grow your tree too far out in one direction and it tips over, you have to take that branch that you added and put it somewhere else.
Yeah.
You don't lose it, but you don't get to put it exactly where you want it.
Which is actually a fun aspect of the game. And it's not going to happen a lot because you're going to be able to balance it pretty well.
Right.
But you can, if you're going after a goal where you need a lot in a row and you just build one branch out, it's tipping for the most
Let's
part.
talk about the branches, because they're pretty cool. They start with 1 on each side, and you physically take these and you put them in here. And each of these branches has 2 paths on them.
Yep.
So that's how you get all these weird shapes and dimensions to it. And you can really build some unique patterns in here by trying to go through those goals.
Yeah, and there are 16 different shapes of branch. They're not all just the same branch.
okay.
Some of them have like a crooked bottom, and
I
some of
didn't
them have a
notice that.
straight one.
I didn't notice that either.
Yeah, between the 4 Kodamas and the 4 icons, there are 16 combinations, and each combination is represented 4 times. So if you miss out on it once, you'll be able to find another combination in the forest somewhere.
And did you mention how the game ends? Like what triggers the end game?
The game ends once everybody places 10 branches on their tree. You stop moving your guys and placing branches, and you just pick up the 2 branches that your Kodamas are still on, and you add it. And when you add the last 2 branches, you don't get gold cards for them. Everybody just adds them simultaneously.
And what happens on your turn if you want to move and you're like physically blocked from moving?
If you literally cannot move either one of your Kodamas, you just pick one up and move it to wherever you want.
And that's only going to happen when there are other Kodamas in the way, right? So when one of these stacks is gone and there's a gap, you can still move across that to the next stack.
Yeah, it doesn't block you there being a gap. If these were gone, you could move this guy to here, no problem.
Yeah, I really like the drafting mechanic here with the puzzle layered on top of it is really, really satisfying, particularly given that you're taking these things and then building out this crazy 3-dimensional tree.
Yeah.
So for those people that are familiar with Kodama, what would you say that's like the differentiator between this? Obviously the 3D element of it, but what else is really different between this and the other Kodama?
I think the that basically the two games tie together really well in aesthetic and kind of ease of play and learning. Literally anybody could learn how to play this game. The big difference is it is way more strategic in your options, right? A lot of times in Kodama, you only have 4 choices, and 1 or 2 of them don't really help you at all. So you're just kind of picking the best one and then figuring out how to lay out your tree in the best way. In this one, you're looking and you're like, okay, the thing that I really want isn't available, so I'm gonna like kind of wait and I'm gonna pick this other thing. And you may decide to try and advance your goal and not draw a new goal card, or you may decide, oh, that's the goal that I really need. So now I'm gonna place this branch in a way that's not very optimal, but it doesn't match. So I get the opportunity to pick up this card that's gonna score me more in the future. So I would say you have a lot more options in this game, but that like the goals are a little bit easier to understand. Sometimes when you teach somebody Kodama, the kind of wording on the cards is a little confusing. So I would say that the goals are a little bit easier to understand, and you're just kind of focused on figuring out the best way to kind of move your guy around the forest.
Yeah, they're also more easily attainable. I think when you have the goals in your hand, no turn in this game, it's definitely more satisfying, because the difference between a bad turn and a not great turn, or a better turn, is one's good and one's really good. There's no like, I took this branch and added it and it really didn't do anything. You're either helping one of your cards here, or if you're not, you can place it such that you just get another card and start working on that.
All right. Talking about the Kickstarter itself, what else are you going to be having in the Kickstarter that we're not seeing here?
The base pledge level will be just Kodama, and then we'll have stretch goals that will cover some more goals that are a little bit weirder. That'll be promos. And then we'll have a decree expansion. So in Kodama, you have decrees, and one of them's drawn every third of the game, and they add a new rule sort of for that third of the game, or season, as they're called in Kodama. In this one, after you do the full setup and you get your goal cards dealt to you and you lay out the row, you can shuffle in decree cards into the goal deck, and then whenever one of them is drawn and revealed, you resolve it. So they'll add a little spice. They may put all the cards in the row back on the bottom of the goal deck, or they may allow everybody to draw a new goal card, or they may allow you to remove one of your branches and put it in somewhere else in case you like made a mistake, or you can optimize better.
Yeah.
So they spice it up a little bit more. They're not going to be in the retail version because we're trying to keep it as kind of simple and clean as possible.
Cool.
But they will appeal to those Kickstarter backers who are real fans of the whole Kodama series, and they kind of recognize those beats that the Kodama has in the game.
So in this, Kodama is the first one not designed by you and Daniel Solis, right?
Correct. Yeah, the first game was designed by Daniel Solis, and I helped him develop it from Kigi to Kodama. And then he and I designed Duo together. In this one, it wasn't designed by either one of us. It was brought to us by a design couple who have made several games, Sagrada and Bosk that's going to come out soon, and some other games. Daryl Andrews and Erica Bujoris designed it, and they brought it to us. And when it was designed, it was this decorator crab game where it was like you were like building up barnacles and stuff on a shell. And
you were like, I have the perfect universe.
Yeah,
this actually works really well.
Oh yeah, no, it's great. I was like, oh man, why didn't I think of that? It's because it works perfectly for this.
No kidding.
Sure. One of the things I know that a lot of people in the Kickstarter are going to want to address is the durability. Anytime you're inserting and taking pieces out continually, how's this thing going to hold up over repeated plays?
Right, so we actually had this game ready to launch probably like 6 months ago, and we were trying to figure out the materials for it, and we've gone through several different options. And where we started is kind of where we ended up, was chipboard is going to be the best way to do it. So basically token sheet, but we're going to make it a thicker token sheet. So it'll be 2 millimeters, and we're going to use we may use black core and we may use the standard, but it's going to look a lot better than this prototype.
Oh, sure.
Because when you make this stuff by hand, you have to cut these little things by hand. It's impossible to get it cut.
Well, yeah, and this one worked pretty well in our play of it.
Right.
Even being a print and play sort of thing.
There were some that were like a little tight or whatever, but yeah, it's going to, and then, so I took a bunch of the token material that I have from the factory that we already use, and I took it and I cut some slots in it, and I took other tokens and just like tried to put them in the worst way that you could. Like I was trying to like rub it against the side to try and make it tear, and it really didn't. After like, putting the pieces together and removing them several times, like probably like 30 or 40 times is when I started to see wear on the edges, and it was just wear on the art, right? It wasn't like the sides were peeling up. It was just like, this is now white where it was like a brown color.
Yeah, it's really cool too, because you probably can't tell on camera, but you can put these things in a number of different ways.
Yeah.
Some of them have a simple cross, but some of them actually have a star, so you can actually turn these branches as you put them in. And it's going to take some doing, and you're going to want to take that into consideration when you're trying to balance these things.
Yeah, I think it's really a neat idea that you guys took a game that's already has a spatial element and you made it now 3D. I mean, that's really interesting to a lot of people. Anytime you're allowed in a game to be super creative, like you can look at these trees as they're being built out, they look very different from one another. The elements you're adding to it adds to that bit of, I'm creating something myself, and that's really, really cool. So guys, that is Kodama 3D. It's from Indie Boards and Cards. It's going to be on Kickstarter when?
It should be April 30th.
April 30th. Make sure you guys go to the Kickstarter page to see all the final components. If you have any questions, make them in the comments below. Subscribe to us, follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, and everything else that we do. Thanks for Nick for coming by.
Thank you for having me.
And we will catch you guys next time.
Bye-bye.